Hey everybody, Matt from MTM Farms, back here in the hay barn with the 6-point. What happened now, honey? So last night I finished up. Oh, by the way, welcome to part 2. So last night I got all the new injectors installed. So here's the top of them here. Let's see if I can. So these are actually really nice, much better than the 7 liters. You've got a hold down clamp. See if I can get a shot of it. There's a hold down clamp right here. My finger's on the bolt. You slide it all in together as an assembly and then torque it down 37 or 38 Newton meters. I don't know what that is in foot-pounds, but so I got all those torqued down. I did this side first last night and I still had the glow plugs to deal with. The other side, which has got more access to it, I did after. But before I started, I noticed, oh hey, look at that, I can see the glow plugs from inside the valve cover. So right there, one of my fingers covering the light. So the glow plug hole is there, and it's actually underneath the clamp for the injector. So you can see the clamp a little bit better right there to the left and the down from the injector. Glow plug's underneath that. So I was able to hook the back side of the plug, which is a big plastic piece with an O-ring, pop it out from the inside, and I got this side all off, no problem. The other side still had the injectors in, and I really didn't want to pull them out. I was able to use a scribe and grab the harness and yank them out. Got them all out, got all the glow plugs swapped out, and we're ready to continue on piecing this thing back together. But before I do that, I've got a heater hose here that, so you can see this heater hose and where that beef up piece is right there, you can kind of make out that the corner of it is kind of worn. Well, it's been rubbing away against the thickum and it hasn't burst yet, but I'm pretty sure it's about to. So I called my friends up at Riff Raff Diesel and asked them about getting one. They told me you can't get them, they're obsolete. I was like, well, shit. So called Bill down at my local Ford dealer. He looked it up, says, yeah, I got one in Sacramento. I can get it for you tomorrow, overnight, no problem. So that's what I did. So here's the hose. It's got a quick disconnect on this side to the firewall. Standpipe with 2 brackets that bolt to the firewall, and then comes out to this side, and it's just a clamp to the Y pipe that goes to your degauss bottle. And that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap this out first, since I've got kind of everything opened up. Probably gonna be a little bit of cussing because I'm sure this hasn't been off for quite a few miles. Figure out what kind of fitting that is right there. I wonder if I can just press those tabs. Will I be able to release it? I don't know. We're gonna find out. So anyway, this is part 2, the beginning of it. Yeah, and we'll just keep making some progress. All right. So last night I did everything on the driver's side, which happens to be the easier side. And today we are going to do the passenger side, which is significantly more difficult because of the air box right here. So I'm just going to work some of these harnesses up and out of my way for now. That up there. Oh, it's going all the way down and around, so we'll just have to work around that. Okay, let me get a pair of gloves. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to snap all the injector harnesses back into their bores and connect them on the outside of the head, and then the fuel rail can go on. So these, you've got a keyway right here. You want that keyway to be pointed towards the engine, because that's how the external harnesses are going to plug in. So I'm going to get them started, get them straight, and then just push them up till they click into place, just like that. and make sure that they're locked, because if they're not locked into these bores right here, and let's say down the road you pull this off to do some testing and then you go to try to snap it on, you'll just push the injector harness down into the head, and then you'll have to remove everything anyway to get it all out. So we'll just continue down the line here. Okay. So this is 1, 3, 5, and 7. Even cylinders are on the other side. You want to be really, really careful too. I mean, these are brand new harnesses, so you shouldn't. You see it coming up right here. So we're just gonna push all the way till it's popped in. So these locking clips right here on either side, because it's a brand new harness, you're probably not gonna break them off unless you go and shove it in there, and it catches the outer lip of the bore instead of inserting into the bore. So when I go in, I usually cock them like this to catch the inboard one on the lip first, and then rotate it towards the engine so the outside one catches the outboard lip. That's halfway in. So I'm going to take the side of my finger and grab the bottom of the harness until they pop all the way up. Okay, you want to make sure that the wires aren't going to contact any of the valve train components in here. They shouldn't be able to do that, but you just want to double check. So now let's go on here. Okay. You should feel them click into place, and then just give them a little tug back to make sure that they're locked on correctly. So I've got my GoPro on my head instead of my headlamp. I kind of wish I had my headlamp. And then this one over here behind the alternator. And all right, okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll get the fuel rail, and we need to change some seals out on it, and then it'll be ready for installation. Here we are back in my shop. You got the fuel rail in a vise with some rags so I don't screw it up. You want it in there fairly firm, because we are going to have to use a 1/2 inch breaker bar to break the torque. So 1/2 inch breaker bar, 1/2 inch ratchet, whatever you've got. Scribe to get the old O-rings out and to help you install the new ones in. Here's the special installation removal tool. It's a socket with a bore. Allows you to remove this kind of like a internal hex here, and then the bore matches this. The inner diameter of the bore matches the outer diameter of this, so you get good alignment. Now these do float in here, and these ones are like super loose. And as you move them, you can kind of feel that the O-ring feels hard. I mean, it's been in there for a long time. So the other thing you're going to need, a seal rail kit. This one's from Alliant Power. I got it from Riff Raff Diesel. No, I got this from dieselorings.com. Dirt cheap, like 18 or 19 bucks. I think Riff Raff is 22 plus the tool. You're also going to need a torque wrench when we put it back together. There is a specific torque on that. Alliant's nice enough to put them in the instructions for you, or you can refer to the Ford service manual. So once we put these back together, you're going to go to 100 foot-pound of torque. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we'll break the torque on all of these. They should be tight. Definitely not as snug as the driver's side was. Okay, so we got them all loose. It's going to come out in two pieces. You got the actual internal wrenching portion that comes out, and then these just come right out. So what we want to check them for cracks. You shouldn't have any kind of like metal galling or anything, because the sealing portion of it down here is riding in an O-ring. So these actually look really, really good, and cracking. I don't see any cracking. So set that up there for now, and pull the old O-ring out, which, I mean, it's hard as a rock. There's no stretchiness to it. Next thing you want to do, I just want to clean this out real quick so I can look at the actual machined groove that the O-ring's going to sit in. There's going to be a lot of residual oil in here in this manifold. I mean, it's really, really hard to get it all out. So Ford service manual tells you all these plugs on the side, they're not serviceable. They're installed at the factory. Leave them alone. Same thing with this one. They've all got torque stripe on them when they were torqued down. There's one plug here on the center, on the top here, that is got an O-ring on it that we can change out. We can do that once we get it flipped over. Anyway, so seal out and lubricate your seals. Always lubricate your O-rings. I just stick my finger down there in the bore and get it all nice and lubricated up because I don't want it rolling. Slide it on down in there, and then I'll take the scribe and just gently press it all the way down. Make sure we're seated down there against the bottom of that bore. And then installation is obviously going to be the reverse of removal, with the exception of we're going to use the torque wrench to take it to 100 foot-pounds. So get a handy dandy torque. Oh, I grabbed the wrong torque wrench. I'll be right back. Alright, got my torque wrench. I'm going to take it up to 100 foot-pound. Right there. That's it. One completely done. Much more snug. So this kind of helps to maintain the necessary alignment. We're going to need to be close to where the injectors meet up, but there's going to be a little bit of movement, and when we go to install this, I'll show you. You just don't want to slam it on there and push it down as hard as you can. You'll end up rolling an O-ring inside the injector. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with the other three, and then pick back up with you guys when we get ready to put it back in the truck. Alright, so our fuel manifold, high pressure oil rail, W-pipe, whatever you want to call it, it is ready for installation. So what I'm going to do is those little funnels that I removed and replaced the O-ring underneath, the narrow, smaller diameter tips of those that come out of the manifold, they slide down into the tops of these injectors here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of clean motor oil. They're already still pretty lubed up from the factory, but I'm going to just dab a little bit of oil down in each one just to make sure I'm not trying to roll an O-ring here. So alright, and then all we're going to do is carefully slide the manifold right up and underneath this harness. Stay. And set it down on top. And remember, you don't want to try to force it, okay? So your injection pressure sensor is on the passenger side and up here, and this is actually what's going to come through the valve cover. So that's going to go to the forward side, obviously. You got 3 bolts on the top, 4 bolts on the bottom, and two kind of midway-ish, I guess you could say. So we are just gonna get our sleeves caught on bolts and just gently set it into position here. Almost feels like the grab an inspection mirror. There's one. Okay, so it looks like we're all kind of started. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the bolts and get them all threaded in and started, and then I'm going to evenly pull it in, and then we're going to torque those down to, I believe it's 13 Newton meters. Let's take a look here. Gonna be 10 foot-pound, 13 Newton meters. All right, so I'll be back with you in a bit. All right, manifold's in and torqued down. I don't have everything connected yet. I did reconnect up this power lead right here. I believe that only powers the glow plugs, but it might also power the FICM. So I have the FICM installed already. It's not bolted down. I just have it plugged in. The valve cover and stuff is on. I'm going to go ahead and do an injector buzz test real quick to make sure that all 8 are buzzing before I go much further. I don't want to put this valve cover on just yet. I actually shouldn't have put the oil pipe on either, but I went ahead and closed up the other side because it's really, really simple to get to that side and take it all off. This one is the one that's a pain in the butt because all the bolts are back there against the airbox. So I'm not going to crank the truck or anything. I'm just going to turn the truck on. I'm going to use my scan software. I went ahead and unplugged the vacuum pump because I don't want to listen to it. I'm going to go ahead and let my Auto Ingenuity connect. It's scanning all the sensors right now. Once it gets through that, then I'm going to go straight to a buzz test. And if all 8 are buzzing good, then I'll turn the truck off, disconnect power, and continue to bolt everything together so I can crank it. These scan tools, your basic scan tools aren't going to be able to do like these advanced diagnostics like this. You got to have something more advanced. I like Auto Ingenuity. I think I paid $200 for the hardware and the base program, and then $200 per license for every manufacturer of vehicle that I would like. And this allows me to access all the built-in subroutines within the PCM, like doing key on, engine off, key on, engine on tests, injector buzz tests, contribution tests, glow plug tests. So I'm going to go over here to testing onboard systems, and I'm going to tell it that I want a key on, engine off test. So you're going to hear them all buzz and then individually. So that's all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so injectors are buzzing. I guess it's going to go through it 3 times. Okay, we can do 3 times, that's fine. That's it. So the FICM is reconnected correctly to where it's operating the injectors. All the injectors are connected correctly, and they're buzzing. So I'm going to go ahead and power the truck back off. Close the door for now. Disconnect my battery. I only hooked up one battery for this test because I don't need them both. So because I've got vacuum lines disconnected, I just unplugged the vacuum pump right here so I could hear the injectors. Otherwise the pump would run the whole time until a vacuum was established again, and it's just not going to do that because this is disconnected from the heater valve here. So yeah, so now I'm gonna just disconnect that, and I've got, before I can close this valve cover off, I have the standpipe here, dummy plug here to go in, but before I install those, they're gonna need new seals. And I've got a seal kit over there. It's really quite the pain in the butt because the seals are very, very thick and very, very small in diameter. So you'll cuss quite a bit. So I'll show you those real quick. Wherever I put them, they're underneath this valve cover right here. Okay. If you've never seen the 6 liter injector, here's what they look like. Really, really tiny. I mean, probably a third the size larger for a Power Stroke 7.3, but they weren't really in that bad a shape. None of the screens were dirtied up, which I was kind of surprised. There was a little bit of corrosion here. This is your fuel passageway from probably water in the fuel, which with a diesel it's darn near impossible to keep water out of the fuel. So all right, so here are, this is the dummy plug, standpipe. On the passenger side, you're going to need to install it in 2 pieces, simply because of the air box. So I'll slide the first piece down, hold it down here at the end, slide the other piece in, slide the whole thing down as an assembly, and then torque it in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to change out all these seals. You have a seal here at the tip, seal here at the tip, either side of this oil passage here, and then you have a Teflon backup ring here. Dummy plugs, you got Teflon backup rings also on each side. So these reseal kits you can also get from Alliant. Come with all the O-rings you're going to need and some instructions in case you take everything apart and forget where it goes. So it shows you the new style and the old style. If you have the old style, get rid of them, buy new ones. You'll thank me later. What happens is without these Teflon backup rings, these O-rings like to flutter harmonically with the frequency induced into the oil from the pump, and they flutter and wear themselves out. And you can see these are quite thick, and I've had them to where there was just a couple of hairs worth of rubber still holding them together, and that'll cause either a complete no start issue or a start cold, no start hot issue. So if you pull your dummy plugs or your standpipes out and they look like this without the Teflon backup rings, get rid of them. Spend the $30 for the dummy plug and $55 or $88 for the standpipe, which you're going to reuse this piece of the standpipe anyway. You're just going to be replacing this portion of the standpipe when you get the upgrades. But yeah, upgrade to these. You'll thank me later. So I will be back with you as soon as I'm done changing out all these seals and cussing, and we'll get them slid into the truck. Alright, so spared you the heartache of swapping all these O-rings. I do recommend, however, to not do this on a haystack. You do want to make sure that they're all clean, and we're going to go ahead and reinstall these. So the new styles are both 12 mil. Yeah, that's right, 12 mil. The older style, the standpipe was 10 mil, and the dummy plug was a 1/2 inch drive square receptacle, but they just went to both the 12 mil, and I have a socket for that, which is that bad boy, which in Orville was hard to find at the time when I bought this like 7 or 8 years ago. I actually found one at a truck store, big truck store, so I got that. So anyway, we're going to reinstall these. What you want to do is make sure you've got some clean, fresh oil. So so you can lubricate the O-rings. On the standpipe. So this is the end that's going to insert all the way down in through the head and down into the crank, well, the valley really, where the high pressure oil pump is, connects to the branch tube down there. And so the reason you got a standpipe on one end and a dummy plug on the other is because the fuel rails are interchangeable left to right. The dummy plug does nothing but block off the forward passageway. That's it. So we're just going to insert the standpipe in first. How did I get that in last time? I don't remember. Uh-oh. You know what? I don't. Gosh darn it. Well, that's going to really piss me off. I'm no mathematician. But that ain't going to work. All right. All right, so now that's in. We're going to take the other end here. Slide that in. Take our bit. And start hand cranking that bad boy in as far as we can go. I don't know if that's going to fit on there. No, oh, it does. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we're going to tighten these down, and then we're going to torque them to 60 foot-pounds. So all I did to get that lower half of that standpipe in is I kind of just banged in this heat shield a little bit. It gave me just enough clearance to get it to slide in there. Okay, so good and snug there. We'll go ahead and get the dummy plug in too, and then we'll swap over to the torque wrench and tighten those down. Okay, just got them snug down. Grab our torque wrench, drop this down to 60. I locked it. 70 there. All right, and 60. Good there. All right, good there. Okay. All right, so injectors are in, fuel rail is in, injectors are hooked up, past the buzz test. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the brand new coil plug harness. We'll go ahead and get that installed now before I put the valve cover on. Once the valve cover's on, it'll be really difficult to do. So, much like a spark plug, wire on a spark plug, that's all that these basically are. So this is going to go just like that and then loop up to connect here. So what I'm going to do is I'll take just a dab of oil on each one of these O-rings just so they slide easy into the bores. Just a little dab. Okay. Go ahead and get this harness back out of the way again. So obviously these go one way. The only difference between the passenger and the driver's side is the lengths. That's it. Everything else is the same. And so I believe I guess I'll just start up here in the front so it'll hold it into place. So the hole is there. And you should feel a positive lock on. Okay. So 1 and 3 are on. See if I can reach back here and do 5 and 7. Okay. And now the last one. That will be a little more tricky here. Find your bore. I don't know if you guys can see that, but okay. So I got it started. I'm going to reach down from the top. Yep, there we go. Okay. And here's our harness right here. I don't remember the routing, so we'll just kind of leave it out of the way for now. The transmission filler, it came out of the transmission, so I'm going to have to climb underneath and finagle that back into position. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up this mating surface with a rag and some WD-40 just to kind of clean some of the dirt off. And then I've got new valve cover gaskets because the other ones are really super brittle. One of them just broke just by looking at it funny. So I'll get that cleaned up, get the valve cover on, and then we'll go back. One thing I wanted to mention, you see I use a lot of disposable shop towels for a lot of things. I'm going to use a shop rag for this and some WD-40. WD-40 is a phenomenal cleaner. Doesn't really hurt anything, really. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can drink this stuff and it's not going to hurt you. But it works really good to clean off this aluminum. Don't try and use a scraper or a razor blade. It's aluminum. A steel scraper or a steel razor blade will just cut the aluminum off. I just want to clean the dirt off so the new valve cover gasket has got something decent to seal to. But if you use a shop towel, the shop towel is going to be more inclined, I guess you could say, to hold on to the dirt particles rather than kind of sweeping them. You really want to try your best to keep as much dirt out of that valve, well, from underneath that valve cover as possible, because every bit of it is going to end up in the oil system, and every bit of it is probably, I mean, if it's large enough, particles of stuff is going to end up at the injection pressure regulator and cause you some heartaches down the road. So you can see, hopefully, that with just a little bit of WD-40 and my finger, I'm cleaning this off fairly quickly. I mean, I'm not trying to make it a show quality finish here, but the majority of the dirt I just want to clean off. Looks like it's time for me to go get some more. Yeah, it is. Some more WD-40. So you can see the WD-40 and the shop towel pretty much grab every speck of dirt from here and hold it in the fabric. If you'd used a shop towel, a paper shop towel, it would not only would you have fibers of paper everywhere, because this cast on its sides is very, very rough. Any dirt that you even barely disturbed would just fall down into this valve cover area and end up in the oil system, and you don't want that. So yeah, so valve cover gasket, these are reusable. I mean, I've had these valve covers off a couple of times over the years, but this is plastic with rubber embossed on both sides. It's the same gasket for both sides. It's interchangeable, so looks like that's the correct way right there. Not uncommon when you go to pull these off that they're so brittle that just trying to get them out of the engine bay, that is not the correct way. So just trying to finagle it out of here, sometimes they will break. I mean, they'll just right in half, no problem. So let's try this direction. Make sure all of our holes are lined back up correctly. And so that's the correct way right there. Okay. And the next thing is the valve cover itself. That's going to take some finagling as well. If you have to take the oil fill tube off, by all means. It'll only make it easier to go in. Does make for a really, really great handle though. Make sure it's clean on the inside as well. Looks like there's some hair. I don't know, hair or something in here. Same thing with this side of the flange. Make sure it's clean. Cleanish. And like I said, we're not going for show quality. We just want to ensure that we're going to get a good seal. That way you don't have oil. You're not going to have oil spewing out no matter what you do, but you'll have oil leaching out over time, and it makes your engine dirty. And if you have to get a DOT inspection, because you're a commercial deadhaul company, they might want to grumble about it. Who knows? I guess it kind of depends on the DOT inspector at the time and how his day is going. So I'm going to try and do this with the oil fill tube, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to take it off. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll get lucky. And I got lucky. Okay. Here we go. So now we have a set of bolts and studs that we need to install. If you don't know, if you didn't take a picture before you remove this, or you don't remember where they go, like I don't, and I didn't take a picture either, even though I told myself I should. Service manual will show us where the stud's got to go. So we're going to go up here to section 303-01 Charlie, engine 6.0 liter diesel, and then we're going to look for the, actually we can just expand this and we should, I think the valve cover is in its own section. Let's see here, general procedures, in vehicle repair maybe. Intake manifold, here we go, valve cover left hand, valve cover right hand, that's what we want. So this is going to show you what holes all need to have studs and which ones need to have bolts. If you don't have a service manual, you can Google it and find it online, or you can do trial and error. Once you start piecing everything back together, you're going to see, oh, this needs to be a bolt versus this needs to be a stud. So this looks like all 5 across the top are studs, and the forward 3 on the bottom are studs with 3 bolts on the tail end. So we need, nope, I'm sorry, 4. The front 4 are studs, the bottom 3 are studs from front to rear. Okay, so I need 7 studs. Let me find those first, and I'll start threading those in. So here's what the studs look like. The bolts are the same. Okay, they got a rubber grommet on that stud there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oop, man down. I have 5 studs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 bolts. So something ain't right. Something ain't right. Okay. Nope. Oh shit. I should have 7 studs. Yeah, almost every one of these is a studs, because you've got this bracket for the glow plug module. Bolts on the front here. Oh, I have 5 and 5. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What the heck? Oh, I have 11. I have 11 bolts. What do I got going on over here then? See, I have a stud back here, but I don't think I need one. Let's look at the left-hand valve cover and see. Woo, 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 woo. Woo, woo, woo. There's the thickum. See, I think I put a couple of studs where they don't go. Yeah, see, it's showing bolts, but when you scroll down, to like the Fickum bracket, it doesn't show a stud, it shows a bolt. See right there? Bolt. Oh no, that's the stud for the... Shoot. What the heck? Okay, well, that's disheartening. I don't have enough. I have more bolts than I have studs, but some of the studs don't appear to be even used. Okay, so let's do this. we definitely know where this needs to go. So that goes right here. So we'll start with these top three here. We definitely know that those got to be studs. With these ones right here. So on these, you don't want to like put one or two in and then tighten them. You need to be able to wiggle this thing, especially when you're trying to get the back in. You have limited access already, and you can't see it anyway. So what did I say on part 1? 400 or 500 horsepower? This says 570 at 2000 RPM. I'm sorry, not horsepower, torque. 570 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, so that's going to go like that, I believe. 1, 2, and 3. So that one's definitely a stud as well. Go ahead and put a stud in there now. Okay, and then see, these are definitely studs too. Have to be. And that's a stud. Stud, stud, stud. So go ahead and thread this one in over here. And then we'll go to the other side and we'll figure out what's not being used and steal the studs from there. So I need 2 more studs. So I don't know if you can see that, but the fuel injector harness, I'm sorry, yeah, the fuel injector harness here has got little clips that got to get clipped down over the stud. The rest of these are going to be bolts. So go ahead and do this one back here. And once you get like more than half of them in, all the other ones should just drop fit. Like literally drop fit. Okay. Where's these other ones at? Right there's one. I hated these the last time I had to fucking pull this thing. Alright, I'll come back to this.